My name is Raz Simone. I guess we share a similar name.
We do indeed.
And I do music. I've been doing music since I was 14. I'm from Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
That's for starters. Greaves, he's been the homie for a while. I don't remember where I know him from, just music stuff. And at some point he was talking about, hey, like you're traveling all the time. Maybe one of these times we could go out and just travel somewhere and end up just doing some shows while we're out there, you know, somewhere out of the country. I was like, yeah, I'm down for that for sure. So he had a tour coming up, and so we just went back and forth, and I was like, yeah, bro, I'll definitely come out. It's like we talked about earlier, so we just made it happen. Yeah, that's what's been cool. I wasn't really even paying attention, and then one day I started realizing I feel like the culture's a little bit different in a way, because in the States, most of the States, if someone sees me and they know me, or if they, come out to a show, they're gonna be like, fucking this rap. Like they're gonna be on immediately, Whereas a lot of these places, I walk in and I'm like, oh, no one knows me. Like, so I'm just walking around before the show. It's like, oh, this is cool. I can just walk around, And then I'll go an hour later or whatever it is, I go on. And then I go on and I see all these people singing the words, knowing my words to my songs. And I'm looking around like, what? I just walked past you guys, didn't say anything. Like, how is that a thing, And so that was a pleasant surprise. Yeah. There's been a lot of those. And yeah, it's always mind blowing for me. Yeah. I'm always walking into a situation just thinking, okay, no one knows of me, Always just like that, I guess. Humble or whatever. It sounds weird to call yourself humble, but
no, I know what you mean.
But I genuinely am always thinking, and then to see that happen, it's always a surprise.
Yeah.
And it was definitely a surprise out here, especially because of that, that difference in the culture of it. Just talking about just a few different people, and especially more of a cultural type of thing, where there's like this culture of just being clouded up, like if you're, whether it's your Instagram followers or your whatever, there's all these different man-made measurements that don't really add up. And so, whereas in real life, there's no measure of a man. It's just by their actions, a person, by who they are, what they say, what they do, what they say what they do, they follow up, their energy, the energy that they give off, things like that really are the core of it. Money is, you can be a horrible person and have money. I mean, you could be born with money and you didn't earn it. You can, whatever, you can win the lotto, so it's not, people have already over time realized that money isn't a measurement of men, and that's kind of gone out a little bit, just a little bit. But now with social media and everything, it's like on its face again, where people aren't realizing like what the core is anymore. And it's like, no, it's this thing. Like if you have this many numbers or this many of this, and so a lot of times people aren't appreciating people for the quality that they produce, for the feeling that they get from them, the passion that they have, or whatever it is, their talent. It's more so, do other people like them? Okay, cool. Oh, I like it because other people do, And so like that's clouded up, That's that word that people have taken and, repurposed for this. And, so in my head, it's like, you don't need that. That's not something that doesn't do anything for anyone at the end of the day, Like what's real, cut through that, And so that's more so what Cloud is about. Maybe. Whoa, this is getting deep. I think I just did that because before that I was off of Instagram and social media for a couple months. Because I guess for me, like why I was off of it is that I don't naturally have like a need or a feel to be on social media. Yeah. If it wasn't for connecting with my fans,
Yeah.
it wasn't for a purpose like that, then I would not be on, you know?
Yeah.
And I realized that, and so I thought like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, because I think like maybe in middle school or something like that, it's like, oh man, you know, social media, I gotta get out, there's people on there, I might miss out, you know, like, oh, maybe a girl might talk to me that I like or something, you know, like, or whatever it is. And I realized over time, I don't have any kind of need, I don't feel like the need to get on it or check it. Yeah. I'm not getting like, you know, I don't get that same like dopamine that you get when you see things pop up, you know, and so I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then it makes it hard sometimes because I'm really into the art and I'm really into the people. I'm really into making songs. Like lately, especially a lot of the last the last 3 songs that you mentioned are very more like the trappy type of vibe. And that's not like all I do. Like I have album purpose stuff before and things that people haven't heard yet that are nothing like that. But with that, I appreciate that, using that type of music to use it as a vehicle to put out positive affirmations for others to be able to chant, you know, to be able to look in the mirror and, you know, sing some outlandish, you know, possibly slightly ratchet, you know, things, and then, you know, utilize that tool to get that out there, because the end goal is to, you know, get the music spread to as many people as possible, connect with as many people as possible, to be able to have experiences like these, you know, or to meet fans that have driven all the way from Lithuania, you know, or whatever, you know. Well, it's kind of interesting because I have so many I have so many albums that are coming out that I have lined up, and I don't know if you noticed, but I don't like to be boxed in any kind of way, and so I don't like to have any kind of parameters on anything I do. I might make a song with no chorus. I may make a song with 15 choruses, you know, or different choruses, you know. I might do folk music. I might do country music. I might just do poetry or, you know, rock. Who knows, you know? And so with that, I also love albums because I like to be able to put together the whole story and put together, if you heard like Cognitive Dissonance Part 1 or 2, you know, I'm going through and telling the whole story. And, you know, speaking to people, I love that. But then I also don't like being put in that box. And so I've been kind of playing with this thing where I'm like, you know, I might just keep on putting out this music and let it be like this whole big thing, and then put it into this organized fashion and show people the order that it came in later. So yeah, I mean, you can't really expect anything because it's always
It's a typical Raz, like can't expect anything and just wait for it to drop.
Bottom line,
That's
you might get. I might drop 5 albums at once. I might drop, you know, 2, 1, you know, who knows. And yeah, I actually, one thing I guess you can't expect is I do have features on things, and I usually kind of stay away from features a lot. You know, my first few albums, I didn't really have anything on there. But I have a bunch of features with me and Jay Park, you know. I have a lot of things like sitting up.
So
I like a bunch of features over time with me and Avatar. With a bunch of different, and then other people that I'm not even mentioning like that are in other cities or other whatevers, you know. But like from like the home team, those guys, and I got Anthony, Danza, and all that stuff. So I'm excited to let those things free. And for people to hear me on some genres that are familiar or some ones that they've never heard me on before. Yeah. Like I use the music for a vehicle always, and I feel like different genres, you use different genres for different feels. Like if you're feeling a certain way, like if you're feeling romantic, you're probably not going to turn on anything that's very trap influenced. You know, you're probably, it might even be folky, or it might be, you know, R&B or pop or like whatever, you know. And I feel like some certain genres, if you lean towards those genres, of course it's going to be out whatever you make it to be, and you arrange the music. But if you're leaning towards that genre, you can convey that message and create that feel better. I can create a good feeling song in more of a pop type genre or a funky or R&B type pop or whatever better than I could in polka or something. Like it's gonna be what that is. And if I wanted to simulate, like if I wanted to create a type of like passionate, almost like angst vibe or anger or something like that, you might go over here, whether it be rock or something that's a little more trapped out, or you want to feel cool, it might be a little bit more, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I like to use those genres, as those vehicles to create those feelings. And so I'm excited that there's so many different ones that I'm about to start releasing. So it's not just in this vein or in the vein that it's been in for these last few songs. Okay. So that's exciting to me. So you can expect diversity, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to get people to think and to feel and to especially dive into the feelings that they already have, the thoughts that they have that they're not thinking about. I guess the dormant thoughts or the thoughts that are more subconscious that they don't, let out sometimes. Whether it be something that they know and they're thinking of and it's like weighing heavy on them, but they don't have an outlet to speak about it. They don't have someone else to speak about it, so they feel like weird. Or whether it's they don't even know. They're not even sure or aware of those feelings. So I guess that's kind of that like is about what I'm doing with the whole Don't Settle and talking about polyamory, because it was one of those things where I realized that a lot of people are beating themselves up about certain things and about their relationships that they're in because they don't know anything different. I mean, it feels it's very similar to if you were gay and you don't know, you're not quite sure. I remember there was these two guys that were on a date and they were talking loudly. I was in middle school and I overheard it. And this guy, he's like, what'd he say? I'm 40 years old and I just realized that I've never ever been with a woman before. And so I just started thinking, maybe I'm gay. And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, that might not be gay. You might just be asexual. Yeah. That was my middle school mind. I was like, you might be asexual. You might want to check that out. But yeah, I feel like some people don't think of things as options, At a certain point, it was just like monogamy and, male to female, female to, whatever, straight monogamy. And then people realize, oh, well, there are people that are gay. That's a thing. Okay. No, it's like that's a real thing. It's not like a cry for help or a glitch in the system. Like there's just people that are actually born like that. Not everyone that's gay has been molested. Some people have, and that's altered how they feel. But some people were just born like that. That's how they were, And so people realize, okay, that's an option. But then you still have people who, whether it's slut shaming themselves or others, or because for me it's not so much that like the polyamory, for me it's just like loving multiple people at the same time, not like just running around having sex with everyone. And I'm not mad at that either. That's that might be someone else's cup of tea.
Sure.
But for me it was just like realizing that you can be in love or have love for multiple people at the same time, and sometimes you don't need to put a crazy label over it, but there are some different labels and whatever, some different descriptions if you want to dive in and read about it or talk to someone else about it or whatever. And I feel like people so many times they're made to feel guilty for that. I mean, you have people that are made to feel guilty for having multiple best friends or multiple friends, period. Yeah. So especially if it's on a deeper love level, most of us are all trained to feel guilty about that. So I wanted to speak on that because I saw it as it's like an epidemic where you have people, everyone's cheating. And so people are monogamous, but they're not. And that's dangerous because, you're in a monogamous relationship with someone. A lot of times people are having unprotected sex at this point because they feel like it's just us. And then in reality, someone else was having infidelity in the relationship because they felt guilty and they couldn't just say, oh yeah, this is what I do, or we're having this, so now you can protect yourself accordingly, or I'm protecting myself here, this is how we're doing this. Is that cool? Great, we've got an agreement. It's like everyone has this agreement, and then they're doing this and they're doing that. Like, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find someone that hasn't been cheated on. An adult person that's been in multiple relationships in their life. And so I felt like seeing so many married men who were cheating, put their ring away for the night. So many married men who go out and pay for sex. It was just one of those things where I was like, I felt like this needs to be talked about, because there are people who either feel love for multiple people or feel like they want to have sex with multiple people, and they shouldn't feel bad about that. They should figure that out.
But it's also a better conversation for consent as well, isn't it? Like, if you actually know where you stand on a bunch of things, you can let the other person actually check in with you on a much deeper and more real level, right? And
I'm glad that you said that word, because that's exactly how I look at it. That's what frustrates me so much, because people are having unconsensual sexual relationships just by lying to people. And so in my mind, that's exactly, I've said it to people in this way to let them know how serious it is, because I'm like, in my mind, you are raping someone, because you literally can be giving someone AIDS because you're lying to them about this, and they're laying in this bed with you under false pretenses. That's very serious, so that's why I wanted to speak on those things. And I just wanted to be something where people can pick it up, and then it can become a conversation like this. There's no gimmick to it. I don't want to keep on like beating it over the head or whatever. I mean, there's more conversations I could probably slip into different music, different songs, but it's just something that I felt on my heart to speak about, and I was hoping that it would help some people, set some people free, and actually way more people understood it than I even expected.
Really?
Because a lot of times when I make songs, people hear something, or they hear like a sweet, melody, and they just think, oh, that song's so great. Like, I listened to that with my girlfriend, or, or whatever. And I'm like, do you know what I'm saying in that song? But with this one, nah, I had so many people coming up to me and be like, wow, thank you for that. Like, that's exactly how I've been feeling. And now, like, I went and had a conversation with my girlfriend, or I went and had a conversation with my man, and, I played the song for them or whatever. And then we just had a conversation. And so it was really great to hear that and to see that. Yeah, so I bought that building, so it's not going anywhere. Still have it. That was the whole purpose for me, was that to have a permanent stake in in the city, with all the gentrification from everyone. Like, it's not just people of color. There's white people that have been there ever since they came over from Sweden or die there or whatever, Norway or whatever, but just for everyone, people are being moved around. Culture is being broken down. A lot of children, it's kind of sad to see that they don't have friends to play with, or they can't just run around like they did before. It's not like you have block parties or things like that. It's not a safe environment. Everything's very sterile, and so many people are being pushed, whether it's far north or far south. And so having a stake right there in the community, right there, downtown, the Central District, that was important for me. And as far as activism and all of that, thing is just the bottom line is I give a lot of fucks. I care about a lot of people. I don't categorize myself as an activist. You start getting into that, and then it starts getting really political, and then people are like, well, what are you, what is this, what is that, how about this, how about that? And people just know, I feel like people know, and they have a certain amount of respect for me, where they don't try and impress me like that, and they know how I am. It's like, you either know my heart or you don't, and you don't need to, I'm not doing it for trophies or for points or things like that. It's just naturally how I feel. That's naturally how I am. I'm not gonna change. I care. Even when I don't want to care, I care. And I've worked with other, a lot of different little groups, philanthropic, I guess. What is it? Community type groups, nonprofit organizations, and I ran into a lot of different I've run into a lot of different issues where people are like fake, or they're embezzling money, or or they're doing it just to give all of their family and their friends jobs, just free money pretty much, and so that's why I don't like to be under that umbrella. And that's a whole bunch of other parameters and things. Like, I just like to take out of my own time, my own money, my own energy, and give back when I can. And I also understand that, give a man a fishing pole instead of a fish, and he can eat forever, opposed to that just that day. So I know that a lot of times, giving people my words and showing people how to do things, putting a camera in someone's hands, or giving them some space at a facility like headquarters to be able to work on their craft and figure out something to be able to feed their family with. That's a lot more important than just throwing some money at something, or feeding the homeless for one day. But we still go, and we will do that, because I understand that the act of bringing that food there isn't as important. It might be like dropping a cup of water in the ocean, but at the same time, because there's other people that do it as well, but at the same time, if no one does it, then no one does it. Yeah, so Jay has always been just a great person. He followed me one day. I was like on my way to do this show in Eastern Washington, and I looked and I was like, oh, this guy, this is like 1 million fans. What? He's from Seattle? It was on Twitter.
Okay.
It's like 1 million some fans, and he's from Seattle. Like, who the heck is this? I know everyone from Seattle. Everybody knows me. I'm like, what? This isn't a thing. Like, who is this? And then it's like from Seattle to Seoul, and I'm like, okay, what is this phenomenon? So like, I asked them, I'm like, they didn't know either. I'm like, all right, we gotta figure this out. So like, I'm like, is this like a fake profile? What is this? So I started looking, and I'm like, he's got a bunch of retweets. He's got some activity. No, this seems real. I'm like, he's doing music. Okay, let me look at this. And so like, I played the song, and it was the one song, what's it called? With the animated dog. But yeah, so I remember listening through it, and I was like, this is dope. This sounds great. I don't know what he's saying, but this is a good little vibe, and then so I followed him back, and then he like immediately messaged me like, oh shit, bro, we're just listening to your music right now. This is amazing. And I'm like, we're listening to your stuff right now too, like, so it was just one of those like natural, cool conversations started going on. And then he had a show coming up in Seattle. It was like his first show in Seattle or something like that. And so he's like, hey, like, are you around? You should come out and check me out. And I was like, well, like, when is the show? I'm out of town right now, but I'll be coming back. He's like, it's Sunday. I'm like, oh, well, I'm actually getting back on Sunday. Yeah, I'll come out. I'll swing by you on the way back. And actually, his show was like a couple streets away from where I bought the building. Okay. But at that point, I hadn't had the building yet. So I go and I pull up on him, and just great people. He brings me in. Like, he stopped. He was sound checking. I heard him sound checking. He stops the sound check in the middle of it, like stops all the music, runs out and grabs me, and then just like didn't go back to sound check, just like brought me in and went up to the green room. We were talking and everything. And I just remember talking to him, and I was asking, like, because he had alluded that he's doing this tour run, and trying to connect with the U.S. more and all. And so I said, like, do you have plans of trying to do some like bigger features with some more U.S. big names, all that stuff, and just asking questions on top of the things he was talking about. And he was like, well, actually, no, I was just thinking I wanted to work with you guys, and I was like, well played, I was like, that's cool. I was like, well, you're at the right place. That's good money. And and that was actually when I just got the news I was doing a tour with Macklemore. So it was kind of like all these little stars were aligned, and everything was pretty cool. And so seeing that he was, someone that has as much experience as him and as much influence as him, was wanting to connect in that way and make sure to be on the ground floor of the city, with the real movers and shakers in the city and stuff. that was cool to see, you know. So there was a lot of respect that I already automatically felt towards him at that point. And then it was just like, you know, let's see how he is and his actions and everything.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going out to Korea and link with him. Well, before that, we were, you know, he's like, send me some music. And we were sending songs back and forth.
Yeah.
And we ended up, and so I sent him something. Then, like, at the end of the day, he would send me back a verse already.
Okay.
Or, you know, send things. And so we had went through, and I was like, damn, we already have, like, a whole little album together already. I was like, we might as well go pick a project together. He's like, hell yeah, I'm down, let's do it.
Okay.
And so, like, that was it. Like, I think we had already had, like, 8 songs together back and forth, like, within a week or so, not even a week span. You know, and then I was like, damn, I need to go pull up on him. And I'm always, like, liking to travel, so I was like, I'm gonna go out to Korea. Like, I gotta go to Korea sometime in my life. This is the better, you know, it's as good a time as ever. So, cause he had already, like, gave me the invite to come out. And so I like to surprise people. So I was like, yeah, I'm about to come out, you know, tomorrow. I'm on my way. And so I let him know and flew out there. And, like, from the moment I touched down, I didn't have a plan or anything, but they came and his manager, like, picked me up from the airport, and, like, the whole trip, like, they weren't trying to let me pay for anything, and I kept on trying to be like, you know, with my card or whatever, my cash. And but yeah, it was just a bunch of love. And when we were there, we were talking about our careers and everything, and the work that we wanted to do. And he was like, man, like, I really want to mess with you guys. Like, you know, he was like, all these different little labels are trying to come at me, but, like, he's like, I really want to see what's up with Black Umbrella. And so I was like, oh, and I was like, I mean, we could definitely help you as much as you want, but I feel like, you know, you kind of got it. I think you're good, but, you know, we got you. And so, like, that was the whole talk about. And so I was like, well, maybe we could do something where, you know, I come over, and when I'm in Korea, I'm an artist over here, like, working with AOMG or whatever that is, and you're over here and we're doing Black Umbrella work or whatever. And that was, like, our whole conversation, because he was like, you know, he said that, so I was like, whoa. And so, you know, that was our conversation. And then it was one of those things where both on my end and his end, it's like, Black Umbrella is what that is, and AOMG is what that is. And a lot of the people on AOMG, they wanted to be, like, they wanted to stay the way that they didn't want to. A bunch of crazy change, like, you know, and I understand that. And not even just, like, speaking for, like, me being included on something, just, like, in general, when he was talking to them about doing new things or doing this or doing that or, you know, whatever. And you know, it's a similar thing where you don't want to water something down here, water something out here, and make people upset. So a lot of times it's better to just create something new. And then it kind of made more sense, because it's like, all right, well, we have something new, and it kind of fulfills both, you know, all the things that we wanted to get done. And so, yeah, so that's where we're at. It's just been like a conversation, and it's just been an understanding where it's like, this is what we're doing. We rock in this way. And we're talking, I'm probably gonna create, like, a higher music space in the building that have the Black Umbrella building, and let that be, like, higher Seattle. There's so many artists on higher that are from Seattle, and we want to make sure that we get that gel going, and that there's not a divide, you know, between the, you know, the Korean artists and the Seattle and so on and so forth or whatever. It's just a lot of work and figuring it out, but I feel great because I appreciate Jay's character, and we see eye to eye on. We see eye to eye on so many things, so it works well. That is the idea, and that's been my idea. That's been Jay's idea, and not everyone's idea, but that's where I feel is where it's at.
Because then you're talking about switching up everything, right? The way Koreans do fandoms, like, you're gonna switch that up. What they perceive like a hip hop star should look like, even.
Well, I guess so. Anytime that I'm stepping into the same room as a different culture, I want to make sure that I understand and that I'm respecting it first. You know, before I'm trying to push any kind of lines to make things better. So I want to understand it even more and respect, appreciate, and help push all the positives of the culture. And then after that, after I gained that, more so, then working with people that are heavily a part of the culture, like Jay, to ask them what they feel like the need is. And I'm not going in saying like, hey, I know there's a need, what do we need to do?
Yeah.
No, someone's calling me and like Jay's asking me, like they're coming at me. So that's the position I'm in right now. So it's like then figuring out where are the places where we can push the line and make things better as far as, where can we push things to make things better for anything, whether it's sexism or racism or whatever it may be in this culture and in this culture over here at the same time. What are those things that we can push at to make it to make it a better system? And so that's kind of where it's at, and I feel like that's another part of it having to be more of a slower type of thing, because I can't just be like, hey, I'm here, fuck your culture, we're going in. No. Yeah, that's where we're at, I think. So yeah, I see myself working on being more consistent and making sure to go back and water the seeds that I've been planting avidly. Even coming out here, I'm sitting and thinking, okay, I need to come back out here soon after. Whether I have 5 fans, 10, 20, 40, whatever, or more or less, making sure to come and water that, because I've talked to so many people where it's like, yeah, I came out there, I only have 5 fans. And then I came back and those 5 fans talked to these many different people. So I came back and filled out some 250 capacity thing, and then the next time it was 1,000, like I hear those conversations from my peers and, from so many different people. So it's that, it's like, you have something that's connecting with others. And so making sure to work on that craft and then cultivate the seeds that you've already been planting, it's my key. So, and then going out and touching more. So making it a point to be in Korea more often and work that, since we have that, making it a point to go run around to all these places that I've already touched and more, and to consistently be putting out music regularly, and making sure that I'm not letting anything slip through the cracks. There's so many times I didn't even know that my SoundCloud had songs on it that were doing anything, like a couple years back. And then when I was like, whoa, I got like hundreds of thousands of plays on it. I didn't even know this. We just posted it and just like didn't look at it. I'm like, oh, okay. And then the same thing happened to me recently with Spotify, where I was like, oh shit, like there's a million plays on this song, 1 million on this song. Like, whoa, this has been going on. I didn't even know. I just got my Spotify login. Like I had to like go and have them re-email it back to me. This was very recent, like a few months ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like blowing out of the water that this is happening. So things like that, where I'm realizing, oh, that's the thing. Let me work on that. Let me cultivate that. Most of the time I drop a song, I'll just mention it that one time and then I won't say anything about it again. So making sure that I should probably be letting people know more and promoting myself more, instead of just being like, there's the music. So,
people are hungry for your music, but also for you, right?
And that's the thing too. So that's another thing that brings me to that. This year I am trying to give people more of me, with even things like this and having those conversations, giving more of me in the music. I feel like that's a big reason why a lot of my fans love Cognitive Dissonance 1 and 2 so much. Not just because the music was different, like, nah, there's a very common line throughout all the music. Whether I give you 5 like trap bangers and right then I'll probably give you 7 of these, following that or along with it even, So it's like, it wasn't that, it was those conversations and that, the talking and all that stuff that I'm having with that. I know that people tell me that they really appreciate that. So, making sure to go through and show that, because there's so much personality that you not necessarily miss, but you might not be sure if you're interpreting it correctly when you hear someone's music. So you might hear all these different things, but you don't really know how that person is until you have a conversation with them, you know? So making sure to show that more often, you know? And I feel like there's definitely a balance, because I don't want it to be like a circus where it's all based on me being a personality and just doing, you know, just gimmicky, doing crazy, whatever.
Yeah.
No, I just want it to be like real deal, and then along with music. So yeah.
That's amazing. Raz Simone, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.